All right, man. We are sitting down for another episode. Man, we are plowing through the year. We need to stop and recognize that. Is this going to end up being episode 60 when it comes out?
Yeah, if it's good enough and we decide to keep it.
Well,
yeah.
okay. Well, barring all that, those things all come through. But this, man,
have we ever scratched an episode though?
Ian, have we ever scratched an episode? I don't think we've ever scratched an episode. No. 61. So we should have said that. So Mojo Tone, which is getting ready to come out next week, is a big deal because that was 60.
That's
so, man,
right.
we're
I
can say
along.
we're over halfway to 100 or we're halfway to 120, whatever. But, man, yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, how many podcasts out there hang out through 60 episodes?
Not very many.
I would say that the percentage is fairly small.
Yeah, most people give up after about 20 of them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, good. Well, congratulations to the Music Retail Show.
Yes.
For making it through. So hopefully we'll be passing 100 sometime next year, and it'll be good.
That'll be a milestone.
It'll be cruising right along. So we ought to have a big party. We'll say it right now, a big party. I don't know what that's going to look like, but... Anyways, but man, we're going to take this episode to kind of talk. Man, we've had some great episodes lately with Jason Jordan, Brian Nutter, and even some of the guests. But we're going to take this episode and talk about just some personal things that are on our mind that we feel like naturally comes at the end of the year.
Yeah, we've had a lot of great guests, and it seems like lately we've had a lot of guitar players on here. Which, we probably one out of every 3 or 4 episodes would put a guitar player in there to break up the serious talk.
Yeah.
But now we need to put a serious talk in to break up from the guitar players because we've had too many guitar players on here.
It's almost like we were in Nashville.
Is that confusing?
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Right. But, so we're going to talk a little bit about... The overarching theme here is going to be personal reflection.
Correct.
But we're going to break that down into some other topics to get a little bit more focused.
Yeah, we've got about 4 different topics that we're going to stay with. And I say stay with because we could get real deep and probably lose half of the people out there because it's a deep subject. There's a lot of moving parts to it, which we're not going to go into all of it today. We may have another episode sometime, maybe before the end of the year, to finish it up. I don't know. We'll see how this one goes.
Yeah.
But right now we have 4 different topics. I'm going to go ahead and read those topics so anybody out there listening or watching could at least think about it and kind of track with us. We got family crisis, personal shortcomings, structure of company, and change of market or the economy. So there's 4 topics that we're going to stay with. I mean, we could do 4 hours on that. I mean, an hour a topic, but we're going to kind of scale it back a little bit, spend about 15 minutes, give or take, on each topic and see what happens.
Yeah. And these are 4 great topics because just I would say 99, well, it's just 100% of all business owners or music store owners are going to run into these subjects either yearly or some point in time within
or
the life
weekly
of the business, or weekly, and
to some degree. It may not be as extreme or whatever, but the cool thing about this is a lot of times when we talk about stuff that's a little more focused in this type of stuff is when it seems like we get our best response. So it does resonate with people to where they want to hear more about it. It might be topics that not everybody talks about in the industry, so maybe that's why it's unique. I don't know, but to me, I enjoy talking about them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
or I just enjoy talking, one of the two. I don't know. I haven't decided,
a little bit of both.
Yeah. So, well, go ahead. Kick us off.
All right. Yeah. So the first one would be family crisis, which I believe is obviously something. This is something that's going to affect business owners and can affect them and could set them off course and close businesses. It really can. And so we think it's obviously going to be good to talk about these kind of things, but family crisis can be anything. It could be divorce. It could be kids having situations. It could be a death in the family. Man, it could be, even a financial problems at home that would cause business to be derailed.
Yeah, and you said it right, by business being derailed, because a lot of people are probably sitting back and going, why are we talking about this? We're talking about this because what we're trying to do is concentrate on the things to where businesses lose focus, lose direction, and maybe kind of go left when they should go right.
Yeah, absolutely. So the overarching theme of personal reflection How do you see that business owners need to approach family crisis when they're reflecting on themselves?
Well, I think in all, I think in all the different ways, the first thing that comes to mind is maybe a situation that I've had in my personal life. And that's, I think we all kind of do that. I mean, I think we all stop and go, wow, this happened to me, or this is how it has affected me. But one thing that I would like to encourage people to do that isn't really as common as it should be, especially with men, is if you have a family crisis, is to make that the most important thing that you have going on and your business for it to be secondary. Hopefully you have staff that can kind of step in and help you out a little bit, because family crisis, especially when it comes say with divorce or children acting out in certain ways that causes a lot of problems, especially in their teenage years.
Yeah.
A lot of times men, what they want to do is they kind of get tunnel vision, and then they spend more time at work. They, instead of working 40 hours, they work 60 hours. Instead of working 5 days a week, they work 6 days a week, or even 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And that just compounds the problem.
Yeah.
They don't want to be around their wife as much because they're having marital problems, because they don't want to face whatever issue is there. So I think in all these different cases, I think this is times where we just stop and say, wait a second, my family is the most important thing I have going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And not there's different situations, for different scenarios, but the Music Retail Show, our standard here is if you want to have a successful business, then you need to have a successful home life. They just go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
They go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
And so that's why we're talking about this. So family crisis can be something to where if your home life is in disarray, which it happens to everybody.
Yep.
I mean, nobody is exempt, but what are we doing? How are we approaching this? And what are some things that we can do to reflect on ourselves to try to make it through this in the best way possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's all very, very tough, because like I said, I think a lot of times we have to look at ourselves and say, how does it affect my life? How does it affect me as a person? And that's something that's unique. It affects everybody differently. And we have to be in touch with ourselves to know exactly how we respond. I know for myself, there are times to where when something happens to me and it's really heavy, I might actually find relief in work, as long as it's something that is not overly detrimental to my family.
Yeah.
And I have had that happen before.
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes where you literally have to take your concentration from work and go left a little bit and spend it on your family, without suppressing either one of them, engaging with everybody on both sides, because sometimes you want to block things out. Sometimes you want to ignore things. But I know for myself, where I've literally come and stood at the front door of this building when I've had heavy stuff go on in my life, and just have to take a deep breath and refocus and change my thought patterns, because whatever was going on at home, I had to leave it at home, and I had to hit refresh. And then there's been times at work to where it's been so heavy that you literally go, hey, I need to take 30 minutes and deal with these problems in this situation, because it's more important than dealing with some of the things that I have going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, things that people need to consider is, it is good to disconnect and take a deep breath, because it's very easy to take your personal life and bring it into work and then take it out on the people around you that you're working with.
Yeah.
Which can, then that can create stressful situations with people, or you might, people say things that maybe they don't want to say. I didn't mean it like that. And it creates, it kind of creates, issues that aren't even necessarily there. They
It's not
just seem
fair
to
to
be
the
there
other
because
person,
because family crisis is kind of happening. So, I think business owners need to step back and take a look. How am I affecting my employees? How am I affecting just the overall atmosphere at my work?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too, it's when are you taking your work home in the midst of a family crisis and refusing to deal with that? It's a big balance. Like you said, you just have to take a second and these are things we need to contemplate and think about.
Well, I know in in the case of me, and we're not going to go into all the details because I'm sure the people listening and watching don't really care about that. And you guys know a lot of things that's gone on. There's been times to where we could say, hey, I'm going through this and I need help. Or I want to let everybody know this is what's going on. And then everybody else knows how to help out, in certain areas.
Yeah.
Or they know if, hey, I'm not mad at you, I'm just having a bad day and I need to keep my distance. Well, then, in the case of staff, they know that, hey, let's give this person a little bit of room or additional support. In the case of death in the family, what are some of the things that, even employees listening can do to help out with that? It could be, we've had death in families here and preparing meals or doing certain things that would help comfort or relieve tension from somebody can actually support and help them out in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I would actually add to that too that communication is a big key too. Whether you're just an employee to your boss or whether you own a company to your staff and your employees of just communicating to some degree so that there's an understanding that there is a family crisis going on and that, hey guys, listen, I need to deal with this. I just want to let you know, and you kind of lay that out. It gives everybody else oh, I understand what's going on. Now they can be supportive.
I think I agree. And I think in some cases, and I know for myself, I've wrestled with certain things and then certain things I've been very forthright and candid with. It can be a hard thing, especially if you own a company, you run a company, and you're the figurehead of a company to walk in and go, hey, I'm vulnerable right now.
That's a big deal.
I've got a family issue. I've got a wife that's not happy with me. I've got, I'm not feeling well. I've got something going on that I need medical help with. I mean, there's a lot of things where people, in a lot of cases, don't want to say anything or they don't want anybody to know about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a time where, as an owner, as a figurehead of some sort, whatever that is, where you need to just be vulnerable and say, hey, listen, guys, I just want to let you guys know I'm going through some stuff. I would appreciate your support.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't show weakness. Your staff isn't going to go, oh, he's a sissy. He's weak right now, or he's fill in the blank, or, him and his wife and blah, 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 blah. Odds are they're going to go, hey, how can we help you
That's
out?
exactly right. That's exactly right. And then, of course, as an owner of a company or in the retail world, you need to encourage that kind of behavior. But it's hard to set that first step forward and be an example in that. We understand that. That's why we're talking about this, because these are things that could potentially derail. Hey, you know what? If a family crisis is happening and you're not honest with your employees and you're not open and they don't understand and they feel like something's wrong and they got yelled at, and then they go, well, he doesn't like me, I'm going to leave and go somewhere else.
It compounds.
It compounds. And that's why these things can derail companies fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot of topics with this, and I think a lot of it is something that we need to not only talk about, but we need to be proactive with, and that's, in some cases, seek help.
Yeah.
A lot of times us as men, and that's how, I kind of refer to us today, is we don't want help. We don't like. I remember once upon a time the word counseling was a weird word to me, because you think counselor, I don't know if it's from watching like Friends episodes where, somebody's on a couch and a psychiatrist and there's all this, but you think that that's what counseling is all about. But I could tell you it's not, in most cases, or at least my cases, that I've had that experience. And so there are times where we need, maybe some assistance from other people to help us out in certain family crisis.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong. I mean, people need to realize that just because you might need to talk to somebody or go to counseling does not mean you're admitting defeat.
No,
you're not. You're not admitting that there's something wrong with you. You're just saying, hey, you know what? I could use some help right now, and we would absolutely encourage people to.
You might need some help processing information, or processing where you're at in life, or there's a lot of reasons to see somebody. A counselor or whatever. So
yes. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's be open, man. People who are listening to this, be open, be honest, realize that these situations happen, man. Family things happen. And the best thing to do is to be honest with yourself and be somewhat honest with those around you. So, it doesn't, it doesn't create bigger issues with your
make
business.
it transparent.
Yeah. What do we got next?
We got personal shortcomings.
Personal shortcomings. Oh man, we're gonna be camp on this one for like 3 hours.
Well, maybe we might. I know I have a lot. Let me just be transparent that way. How's that?
That's right. Being quite honest, but personal shortcomings. When I think of this. Do you think it's like recognizing, and this is a way of recognizing your strengths and weaknesses, but also going, okay, here's what my weaknesses are, and being honest about those? Is that what you think of when this happens, or when we talk about this?
I don't know. I mean, for me, when I'm thinking of personal shortcomings, I'm thinking of areas that I know I need to improve, that I want to improve, and I'm examining myself.
Okay.
And that's why I'm trying to figure out what I should say and what I should not say, because what I have to say is really, really silly, in my opinion, and maybe silly in other people's opinion, but it's something that's real. And it's funny, I shared this with Ian yesterday, just randomly. So let me go ahead and share it. So probably right now, I mean literally right now, at my house, I have a lady coming over to help clean my house. Which doesn't sound like a big deal to most people. For me, I have, for the last probably 3 days, wrestled with personal shame for hiring someone to come help every quarter clean my house. Which again, to a lot of people doesn't sound like a big deal, but stemming back from childhood, certain things that have happened in certain situations has caused an issue for me with self-shame in certain areas. And this is one that just kind of, bam, got me. I have a nice house, and it's normally, from a man's point of view, clean. From a woman's, it's probably not, or not as much as it should be.
Yeah.
But it's clean. I clean and I do the dishes and all that. It's not a bachelor pad or whatever.
Yeah.
But it needs a little bit more help than I am willing to give it. Like the baseboards clean and some of the deep clean, that does not excite me. So I tend to go, I'm not doing that. So anyways, back to this, I hired a lady to come, and she's going to come once a quarter to do a little bit deeper clean. Now, why that's causing a problem, I have my reason, but again, it comes back to personal shame at a childhood in certain situations. And literally, for the last 3 days, I have spent so much time consuming myself and beating myself up for hiring someone to come help clean my house that it's kind of childish. It's silly. There's all kinds of different things I can say about it, and I'm finally starting to get a grip of accepting this as something that, get over it, it's not that big of a deal.
So why do you feel that that's a shortcoming, though?
Well, it's a shortcoming because I truthfully should not give it the time of day. It's not very much money. I need help. And so I should hire somebody and get it done. And, I'd enjoy my house a little bit better, I guess. It's just not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is I can do it. I physically can do it. The little bit of shame is because I haven't done it.
Yeah.
And I haven't gone to that depth. And, I kind of feel like I'm wasting money on one hand.
Yeah.
One hand, I feel like I'm wasting money. And on the other hand, it's like, hey, you can do this, so why don't you do it?
Yeah.
So I'm literally beating myself up about it, which again, it sounds foolish. It sounds silly because it's not that big of a deal. I've talked to a handful of people about it because it bothers me so bad.
Yeah.
But again, it stems from other things that cause a reaction, and it causes me to feel certain ways and certain things that goes on. And so that's why when we started talking about this topic, that's something that's just like big old flashing lights going, you suck, you suck, you suck is kind of what it says to me.
Yeah.
Because personally, I'm like, golly, man. Turn the TV off and clean the baseboards of your house.
Yeah.
Or whatever that looks like. For me, it's don't go hunting on Saturday morning and clean the baseboards, and then I'm going to say baseboards are going to be dirty because I'm going hunting.
Yeah. You don't want to be crazy.
I don't want to go that far,
Well, and that's the thing, I guess, is the point is it's whatever decision people come to personally. Personal shortcomings are things that obviously are happening personally, but you can drag them, and it can affect you at your work.
Correct,
and
absolutely.
at your business.
And I mean, 3 days ago, without going into some of the details, that morning when I walked in, I was not in a good mood. I was not in a good...
Is that the morning you made the phone call for the person to come help clean?
No, that's the morning when I got into it with one of the employees that popped off when it was probably a bad time for him to pop off because I was thinking about all that. Anyways, but so that I brought it into work, it's just one of those things that is like, why in the heck can I just deal with this, and why am I making it such a big deal?
Yeah. Why do we make things such a big deal? I mean, I get it. I mean, how many things in my life have I said, I need to do that? I'll do that this weekend. And I've now said that for 6 months.
Yeah.
That don't happen, And I guess to some level, some people carry those things personally more than other people. Dealing with self-worth or shame, those are things that are real. People can heap those on themselves, and they can carry them. And ultimately, at the end of the day, hey, going back to the first subject, they can create family crisis. They can help. They can help start derailing a business because people might make really irrational decisions at work because of insecurity.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And not being honest about that, but I don't know. I'm thinking about several different things, but but shaming ourselves is a real thing that I think we need to recognize, and potentially be another area in our life where we need to potentially get some help with.
I absolutely agree with that, and it's something that I think over the last 3 or 4 years I have been aware of the topic. You hear about it.
Yeah.
You hear about it in school, whether it's whatever, bullying or talking down on whatever. But probably about the last 3 or 4 years, it's been in the forefront of my mind of shaming either my personal self or even shaming somebody else. You know, I think, I can say that I've had several times in my life to where I've done it, and it was done in the name of humor.
Yeah.
And to where it was funny, and everybody laughed, even the person I was joking with. But today, whenever I want to, I stop myself. I try to stop myself, because now I understand the importance of it. And that's an area that I'm trying to improve on, because there are a lot of areas in my personal life where I carry self-shame, and I definitely don't want to continue down that path. That is something that I want to be aware of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess that's I guess the owners of businesses or people who run businesses, a lot of times, I guess, it can be it could be a lonely road. People struggle with, well, these are a lot of my employees. I'm not going to talk to them about this kind of stuff. I don't want to give that perception that
you're weak,
that I'm weak, or I've got these things going on, or, but at the same time, it's just kind of like a lot of business owners have to struggle with the idea of what are my shortcomings? And where do my employees need to kind of kick in to help me with those things?
Because not to cut you off, is they know you have them. They see it.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times they talk about it. So why not have that conversation? And again, we don't have to have a therapy session with all of our employees and spill our guts and everybody shares all these dark secrets. But occasionally there needs to be a conversation of, hey, I have a couple of areas that I'm working through that I'm not as strong as I want to be.
Yeah.
And the simple awareness gives a little bit of compassion from your employees to you, or from you to your employees. So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's hidden. Everybody sees it in most cases. In most cases, people know the shortfalls and the shortcomings of the individuals, especially with bosses, because you're so much the focus that they see deeper in on things like that they know. I mean, I can rattle off bosses and their insecurities, and if they were sitting here, they would go, really? I didn't know that about myself. So we all have them. And that's why I'm bringing this up right now. It's a vulnerable place. I've kind of like got to expose myself of something that a lot of people are going, that's really silly. Yeah, I agree. It's really silly. But why for the last 3 days have I beat myself up over something so trivial that it's mind-blowing?
Yeah.
But I do it.
Yeah, I mean,
I do it.
Wrestling with our mind, I should be able to do these things.
Absolutely.
But yet something never gets done.
Yep.
It sounds like that's a situation where people need to recognize what those shortcomings are. And then obviously if you become honest, then it's time to recognize or to rectify the situation.
Or ask for help.
There's
ask
my
for help.
situation.
Get with an employee and say, hey, I'm horrible at doing this. Will you help me out with this? Whether it's organizing the store and I'm making something up. You walk in and you look and go, God, the store's kind of messy, and I'm not a very organized person, so I'm not the guy to do it, but this person is. Let me be vulnerable and go, hey, listen, I really need your help. Will you help? Because I'm horrible in this situation. You're the best. How can I convince you that you need to do this?
Recognizing a shortcoming could be a way to empower an employee that could allow them to kind of maybe
blossom,
come into a new role.
Absolutely.
Blossom into a new
absolutely.
role.
So sometimes we could take a negative and make it a positive, and then sit back and go, wow, maybe I am as smart as I think I am.
That's it. Well, yeah, I'd like to say that.
Yeah.
But I think that's just obviously this is a big deal. We need to recognize it, and ultimately at the end of this conversation, we need to realize that we need to recognize our conversations, and there's no reason not to ask for help.
Yeah, because a lot of it is, especially when we're talking about business, we're talking about a lot of business owners that don't have a lot of employees. They may have 3-4 employees, so they can't do everything. They're not great at everything, so they do need help. So we do need to position it in a way that we can ask for our help. So there's nothing wrong with exposing some areas and some things that we're just not good at or we don't have time to get to, but we're beating ourselves up, walking into the store every day and wish we can do something. And we go, man, I'm supposed to be doing this, but I physically can't get it done. I need help.
Yeah, absolutely. And, everybody just needs to recognize that. So, hey, those are two things that we can, family crisis and personal shortcomings are two things that we can recognize and work on and potentially overcome. The next one is maybe something, how do you deal with something that you can't control and that you can't sometimes do anything about? You just have to figure out how to deal with it. And that's
restructuring.
Oh, I'm sorry. Restructuring company. Well, that might be one. You can't control it. You need to do that. But I was thinking actually of the fourth one. So,
okay, well, let's go to the fourth and we'll come back to the third. How's that?
Yeah, it was changing the market or changing the economy.
Yeah.
We can't control that. Yeah, there's so many factors out there that happen. I mean, you have things on a local level, you have things on a state level, and you have things on a national level and global that we can't control. But, what are the things that we can do that we can reflect on ourselves that will help combat these? And not that you'll be bulletproof or anything, but maybe you can withstand stuff.
Man, I mean, as you're talking, something popped into my mind. And I'm going to talk about one of our dealers that I don't have all the information about, but I think I'm accurate. So we did a podcast with Chris Honeycutt from Honeycutt's Music. Okay, so here's a guy that's in a community in East Tennessee that's absolutely crushing it. We've been to one of the major manufacturers that he deals with, and they talk so highly of him and talking about how he's the number one dealer of one of their brands. I think did they say the state or the country, or do you remember?
I want to say the country.
Okay, so the number one dealer in let's call it the country.
Could we? Yeah.
Yeah, it's at least in the United States, and how much he kicks butt. I mean, he's absolutely crushing it in his market. And then all of a sudden we have a Guitar Center move in. And this Guitar Center is within a couple miles of him, I'm almost positive.
Can't control it.
And he can't control it. But his store is packed. So reps love him to death because he buys a lot of product. He's moving a lot of gear. And then all of a sudden, last person I talked to, he was slowing down his buying because his store is packed beyond belief. And now he's like, man, I got to sell some gear. And I've got Guitar Center moving in, wonder what's going to go on in the market, a circumstance that he cannot control personally. He's affected by it in an enormous way. Now, I haven't talked to him about this. I need to call him and talk to him about it. That is an area, man, I sit and I have spent time thinking and I go, man, I feel so bad for him because he has invested tens of thousands of hours of his life and years into growing this business and getting it into where he's one of the best music stores in Tennessee, definitely in his area. Only have to have a major competitor come in that carries a lot of the same product right down the road. And I'm like, wow, you talk about unfair. That's unfair.
Yeah, absolutely. And now what it comes down to is the things that we can control, which we run into a lot of with our clients that we deal with here, is now what's your attitude going to be? Now that you've been given the news of something you can't control, what's your attitude going forward? And that is where you have to take some personal time and reflection to figure out what are you going to do.
It's super hard. Yeah.
But I will say, guess what? You're not the first person that's ran into this problem.
Nope. So well, and I know from experience from having the same thing. Now, I wasn't the owner, but from having the same exact thing happened, we actually grew. because of our attitude. Because now we had multiple stores around us that threw in the white flag. I mean, they surrendered. But what I mean by that is they cut way back on ordering. You know, they were like, well, we're not going to order as we'll show the manufacturers, because we're not going to do the same amount of orders, as if it really shows the manufacturer. But we said, well, hey, let's just ratchet up a little bit. So someone walks in, we're going to have product. And so that way it doesn't force them to go to Guitar Center. And sure enough, it worked. It helped out a lot. We matched and beat their deals. It wasn't like we couldn't compete with them. The only thing that we couldn't compete with them is on the amount of stuff they had. They had more brands than we had. They had more money than we had. But when it came down to price, and we had a pretty good selection, so it was like, we're in the game. So a lot of it was between our ears.
Yeah. Another thing I've heard too, I'm interested in your thoughts, are sometimes people go, they see that, and then they retreat by saying, well, we're just going to focus on lessons. And you know, that's code for, well, we're just going to scale
that's
down.
code for I can live off top or ramen noodles all for the rest of my life. That's kind of what it is. I don't want steak no more. You know, I only want vegetables. You know, but no. I mean, should they focus on something? Yeah, they should, because it'll probably help them out mentally. But you know, they should. But
the attitude is retraction.
They shouldn't retract on anything.
No.
You know, I mean, there's a time and place for extreme measures, but then there's also a time to where you just buckle down and go, well, we've got to improve our customer service. We've got to focus on margin. We've got to do some things and get a little bit more serious. So.
And people need to go back, and we've done several episodes on these topics. You know, talking about, you know, what are things that you can do to combat, what's that word? Competition. You know, but personally reflecting, you know, at the end of the year, you know, we will run into another one. Is a big one is CITES. We saw a lot of that. We got to see how some people looked at that and said, okay, and they gave up. And we had some people that go, okay, well, what are some of the things I can do? You know, even just the example of man, if you're in the guitar business and you sell guitars, I know that at one point in time, the government wanted people who were selling rosewood to fill out forms, to go through that, to be able to go through the proper channels to sell it. Some people did that, saying, okay, well, if that's what I need to do, then I'm going to do it because this is what I do for a living. And then you had some people go, I'm not doing that.
It's too much work.
It's too much work. I'm not doing that. And then they diverted, and they'll go, well, I'll just sell things that don't have that on it. So, you know, there is a perfect example of people who took the time, thought about it, and said, how can I overcome this? And how can I combat this?
Some people gave in.
Some people gave in.
Well, and then the manufacturers changed woods in some cases, so it could, which in most cases,
that was a big help.
It was a big help, but some of the most ugly fingerboards ever known to man came out over the last couple years. I mean, when you're looking at fingerboards and you're going, what the heck is this? Or what, in my opinion, we're sidetracking here. Or mine is the articles that come out, how they're talking about these new woods, how the tone woods are better than rosewood.
Man, we got to talk.
Well, if they're better, then why didn't you do it 10 years before CITES?
For the last 60 years.
They were not better tone woods. They were horrible. They were ugly. They were horrible. But
so let's just jump into current events. What are businesses doing with the tariffs?
Well, let's back up a little bit, because this is something that you may or may not know. They just took CITES away.
That's right. They talked about it in September, and then there's a future date of where that's going to be officially.
It's right now. Or wait, no, December 1st.
December 1st. Yeah, that's right. So December 1st, that will all be taken care of. So, and the
manufacturers will come back and go, oh, look at how beautiful this rosewood is.
These rosewood, man, we went
look
to
at
rosewood
the fingerboard on this.
This tonal wood is so much better. But hey, current events along as tariffs. How are people combating that? What are people dealing with it? Some people are, you have a chance to be very negative, or you have a chance to be, okay, I'll be positive and I'll just do what I need to do But this is a time of personal reflection for people.
It is, especially with the manufacturers. It's also a time of an opportunity. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of times we don't take into account when something does come at us. It's very, very negative. It can also be turned into an opportunity.
Yeah.
So the case of this is we have a lot of people that are in China making guitars, and even it's come down to the gig bags and cases, and we'll talk about that in a second. But so you get these manufacturers, and they have these factories in China, and they're looking at it and going, well, who else makes guitars? And then all of a sudden they change those factories to factories in the area, not in China, but outside of China, whether it's Indonesia or you name the country. Then all of a sudden they're getting them made a little bit cheaper, and after a while, some of them look pretty darn good. So it's actually an improvement. They're saving money. They're a little probably easier to deal with. And it turns into a positive. In some cases, there's a struggle with certain items. Talk to one manufacturer, and he says, "Man, it's hard for us to move certain product to countries because of skilled labor.
Yeah,
and then now we have to retool, retrain, do whatever. We can't really do that because we need this skilled labor. So it costs us a little bit extra, but we still have this product. We're still going to do well with it. In the form of cases, they've really jacked up the prices a lot, and so a lot of people are moving. So again, it's opportunity. It's opportunity to look at your bottom line and go, I know this is a negative, but if I move my company, in the case of the tariffs and stuff like that, it might come out ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, every opportunity we run across, well, every situation we run across, I think provides an opportunity for something.
Correct.
And that's just, I think, a universal law that people always need to understand.
And it doesn't always have to be negative.
It doesn't always have to be negative. And in fact, I would say every opportunity that appears to be negative could create a positive.
Yeah, look for the positive.
Opportunity.
Absolutely.
So whether it's finding market share in somewhere else, or maybe it's dumping a product that wasn't doing well anyways, and you got to refocus over here.
Which we should look at anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that, sometimes the economy or sometimes change makes us do that, and then it becomes a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. So it's a perfect time, end of the year. Business owners, take the time to reflect, but also, look down the road. How can you spot places in your business that maybe you're vulnerable, that you're a little weak, maybe some of your personal shortcomings are coming in your business that would make you vulnerable, and what are some things you can do that you can sit around and talk with your employees about, some potential safeguards that would help you. I mean, that's obviously, maybe there's things we could talk about, but those are very personal things that business owners just have to recognize
well,
themselves.
and you said it right. I know you said it right for me, because it's the end of the year. And I mean, like right now, I'm deep into analyzing myself, the company, everything that we deal with, and go, wow, what do we want to look like next year? What changes do we need to make? Where are some of the things that we got a little bit lazy on that we need to hit reset? What are some of the areas that we're kicking butt and we need to acknowledge it and take it up another level? So the end of the year, like you said, is in my opinion, the best time to look at it, because that seems to be when we look at the end of the year as a deadline, a time to stop and then a time to start. So I agree with that.
Yeah, it's not just a time that everything comes to an end. It's a time to think about.
It's not just a time for good holiday treats.
Yeah, it's not for Christmas shopping. Although, man, I just now realized that I'm going to have to do some Christmas shopping coming up. All right, well, never mind. That's a different episode in itself, I guess. But, all right, finally, the last one that we want to talk about might affect some and might not affect some people at all. But it's something that could potentially derail your business if you are not taking the time to think about it or reflecting personally, and that is restructuring in the company.
Yes.
So, and this is something that, can be very personal for people, but also at the same time, it could be very, positive, or it could be very negative.
Correct.
Depending on how it's handled. What do you think?
Oh man, what do I think? I think this is an awesome topic, and so we're going to share a little bit, and then we're not going to share a lot of things that's going on here. We're always in the growth pattern, especially internally. You know, my position, thankfully, is I've been here for. I thought I was here 20. You see, this is how long I've been here. Mm-hmm. I thought I was here for 20 years, but it's actually 19.
2000.
Yeah, so I've been here for 19 years, and I, looking back, I've had a lot of tags on my door that had different job descriptions, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I'm in a new phase right now of growth, and then looking back and going, wow. I've got to not only, we're talking about, personal shortcomings and examining ourselves. I've got to do that. And then we've got to look at it from the company standpoint. And I go, man, I've got to improve in these areas. The company's got to change in this area. This person is retiring. And I got, there's just a lot of moving parts. So right now I'm looking at it going, oh my goodness. Thankfully, it's the end of the year, new year coming up, because we got to do some restructuring. At the end of the day, none of it is that big of a deal, but I'm making it a big deal in my head because I see opportunity. I see how we can potentially really screw up. We, meaning me, could really screw up and maybe not be as aggressive or be too aggressive.
Complacent.
Sitting
around going, oh, it'll take care of itself.
Let some things slack when it shouldn't slack. Capitalize on areas that maybe, I need to take a look at a little bit deeper. There's just a lot of different things, but when it comes down to the structure of a company, it's a big deal, because it's a big deal not only for yourself, but also your employees to know what the heck's going on in your business. Yeah. What's next year look like for us all?
Yeah, absolutely. And I haven't, to be honest with you, I haven't been around too many companies that have gone through a restructuring process, but man, you know what? I had a really great point, and it literally just flew out of. It literally just flew right out of my head.
You're thinking about Christmas shopping.
I was like, dang, I got all that Christmas shopping. You're going, I don't know. Maybe you should say more things, and it'll come back into my head. I don't know what just happened there.
No, well, but it's all of this is good stuff, because I know for me personally, I know there's a big part of it that I feel like I got to grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
There's areas that I've got to grow up.
Yeah, and absolutely.
And I really am excited about it, and I'm ready to run. A lot of times we're just kind of like casually taking a step, through life. But right now I feel like it's time to run.
Yeah. And I guess, the bottom line is personal reflection is almost comes into overdrive when something like this happens, especially if you're, hey, what if you're restructuring, you're a business owner, you're a music store, you decide, oh, I've been one store for 6 years, I'm going to buy a new location. What is the restructuring that's going to happen? What are your personal shortcomings? What are some things you need to hand off because you know that that's not your skill set? Who can you empower to come in and help you be a part of the restructuring? I know a lot of people, man, they make decisions. I don't know how many people I've actually heard they go, hey, guess what? I just opened up a second location. And then 9 months later, they go, hey, guess what? We just closed that second location.
Oh, yeah.
It's well, what happened in that they didn't, reflect on? What did they need to do? Did they not empower the right people? Did they not do the right research because of the location? What are some of these things that got in the way of the positive growth that they didn't think of?
Yeah, or a building came available, and so they said, hey, I think I'm going to open a new store.
Yeah, that's right.
Instead of actually want to open up a store and then look for a building.
Yeah.
And then, it almost, they made it happen instead of just allow it to happen.
Yeah, allowing it to happen. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, I guess for business owners, it can be a very scary time too.
Well, for employees as well, I think. But with the restructuring a company, it doesn't. sometimes it appears to be negative. It doesn't have to be. I think it should be an exciting time. I think it should be a time that everybody gets excited about, because with that change, hopefully, is forward motion. Man, I know for myself, you sit around and daydream, what's the possibilities? What's the possibilities as we all get older, been around the company longer, take on more responsibility? If things get more exciting, so it doesn't have to be a negative to where a lot of times corporate restructuring means that you fire people, lay people off, and get rid of people. The stuff that I'm talking about is restructuring to move up, to move forward, to grow, to do more business.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I know of a client that they actually just brought in a partner, to be able to grow.
Okay.
So they were doing very, very well, but now they brought in somebody else that's going to bring in a lot of resources and
a lot of money,
money and business success.
Okay.
They've been a successful business owner.
Yeah.
It was in a different form of business, but still brought in
the
successful
know-how.
business,
Yeah.
the know-how to, hey, these are the things. And now I know at one point in time it was, people were nervous. Well, what's this look like? But now, now that it's been implemented in moving forward, everybody's like, wow, this is great. So, it's like, what can we do as business owners or even just at, within the retail business? What are we going to do through this that makes it positive? And you said it multiple times. What are the opportunities that we can pursue? How can we grow? And this needs to be the point of restructuring a company.
Well, and another thing that just popped into my mind, and it's not even something that we've talked about or I don't know, maybe even touched on. Sometimes with this restructuring and this opportunity, whether it be growth or something like that, sometimes we're taking on more than we personally should. One of our customers popped into my mind who's opening a new store, and how many hours he's spending on it instead of hiring a contractor to do it or whatever, and it takes away from his family. It's defeating him, and I know last time I talked to him, he was exhausted.
Yeah.
He was tired, and he was almost like, man, I don't want to do this no more.
I know. Yeah.
And then I thought in my head, is like, man, was that an opportunity, or was that an opportunity gained or lost? And that's what's hard. I mean, that's something that we have to sit around and look at and go, yes, we have an opportunity to do stuff. Now, what is the best way to handle this opportunity or this situation? Just jumping in and just doing something isn't always the answer. Is what's the best way to do it? I know there's been times where there's things that I know how to do, but sometimes I hire somebody to do it because they're better at it, or they're faster at it, or it allows me to do something else that I should be doing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes as this opportunity opens up, we need to find out, okay, what does that really look like? What does my role really need to be so I'm the healthiest, the strongest, the best attitude, and I've got a clear mind. But because in the case of this guy that I'm referring to, I promise you, if he doesn't hit reset, he's going to go a year, 2 years, open up a store, and then he's going to close it down, or he's going to want to retire.
Yeah.
It's going to get him, and it's like, man, dude, you need to. I know you're saving a few pennies by not hiring a contractor. It might be that you hire a contractor.
Yeah.
But that's just an example.
In most situations, I know some people are extremely gifted to be able to pull that off, but very few people are.
That's
Most
a
of the
talent.
times you might save some pennies, but you pay for it in another resource.
Absolutely.
Either
Your family
time or something.
Yep. Personal. Yeah. In the case of him, I didn't even talk to his family, but just looking at him, you're like, oh my God, man, you need to sleep.
Have you slept in a week?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. But so I don't know. Those are 4 great things that I think everybody needs to take some time and reflect on.
Yeah.
You know what? This might even be a great time to say, hey, the musicretailshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear some things. And maybe we need to do an episode of some feedback that we get back from actual, store owners, business owners of what they have to say.
There,
I don't know.
There
We'll
might
see.
be, instead of 4 we have here, they may send 14 of them, because there's a lot more out there.
Yeah,
definitely.
or even talk about a story that reflects on one of these 4 topics. So, but
hopefully everybody understands exactly the point that we're trying to bring across. We're kind of mixing, trying not to get too deep, because this is a deep topic.
Yeah.
And my initial is to go real deep and make it 2 episodes, but we kind of lightened it up a little bit because we don't want to get too deep, at least not on purpose.
Yeah.
But these are 4 things that I agree we all need to stop and look at and examine. It's the end of the year. It's a great time to reflect. It's Christmas time. We're going to turn around and look, and we're going to be in a new year here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So these are things that we need to talk about.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Do you have think anything else we missed, or anything you want to talk about?
No, I'm just happy to be back. Like I said, I've been back for a couple weeks from vacation that was kind of grueling, but I've slept a few days since then, so feeling pretty good. I'm pretty optimistic about a lot of cool stuff for the future. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So this 2019 seems like it's going to close out in a very positive way. So, and we hopefully everybody out there who's listening to this, feels the same way. And if you don't feel positive about the way it's closing out, what are you doing to change it?
I agree with that.
Man.
I was going to say something real sarcastic and smart aleck, but I'm not going to, because I don't need to. I don't always need to have that as a comeback. So you talk about shortcomings? That was another one. See, I bit my tongue. You know?
Well, there we go.
I was going to talk about something like legalized pot in states and stupid stuff, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, well, I know. We're all improving ourselves, aren't we?
Yep.
Okay, well, I'll see you on the next episode.
All right.
The Music Retail Show.